My pledge as Chief Executive of the Galapagos Conservation Trust is to save the Floriana mockingbird, one of the rarest of the Galapagos' wonderful unique biodiversity.
I really want to enthuse hundreds of thousands of people in the wonders of wildlife and especially of bats, and I want to get loads of people really caring for wildlife and aware of the need to really halt the loss that we're suffering, and really change that so that they are going to take personal action and help biodiversity.
My personal pledge for 2010 is to help the Natural History Museum experts to identify species in the wildlife garden at monthly lunchtime recording sessions.
My personal pledge is to try and grow more things in my backyard that are native to the area, that will attract other native things in, particularly native fauna, of course.
I'm pledging to every month put up articles and features on chrisbeardshaw.com and also gardenersclick.com to let people know what they can best achieve in their garden that month to increase the biodiversity.
Make sure that everything I eat now is sustainable. I buy sustainable food from my home, but I do go to restaurants and I eat certain foodstuffs that I'm just not sure, particularly fish and meat, and I'm not sure where it's from, and I kind of just think, sure, I'm here with guests, I'll eat. And from now on, I'm happier to become more of a vegetarian and know exactly where I'm getting my food from than to be responsible for, particularly with seafood, to be part of that problem that we're facing now. So for me, that's the main thing I need to think about.
I think the personal pledge I've made is try to get the message across to as many people as possible, to try to convince people that it is extremely important that we look after our wild places, we look after biodiversity. I think that every species that disappears is a tragedy.
My personal pledge for 2010 is kind of two parts. One, I'm not going to do anything, which is leave my garden in it's a state. So I'm going to leave it as a kind of a natural wildlife reserve anyway, but the next thing I have to do is build some insect hotels. So I'm going to be strapping lots of bamboo together.
I want to be able to communicate to the public at large the value of biodiversity, of nature, that's a great word, so that they understand their part in it and their reliance on it.
In terms of a personal pledge, I love being out and about in the parks in London, but particularly making a visit to Kew and hopefully also making a donation to the Kew Seed Project.
My pledge for the 2010 Year of Biodiversity is to help be an advocate for the species that sometimes get left outside of the limelight when it comes to conservation.
I suppose the three things really I'd highlight and nail my colours to the mast on, all of which are going to be pretty stretching. The first is we intend adding 100,000 hectares of priority BAP habitat into environmental stewardship, so good environmental management. And considering we only have 50,000 hectares so far, doubling that in 1 year is really going to be quite stretching. The second thing is we very much look forward to celebrating the achievement of our 95% target for sites of special scientific interest in favourable or recovering condition. We're at the 90% mark, and the last 5% is always pretty tough, but hopefully by December 2010 we will be celebrating that. And of course 2010 is also the year when we do the reintroduction of the short-haired bumblebee. That's only one species obviously, but I think it's pretty symbolic. And alongside that we'll be putting in place species recovery plans for the 100 most threatened species. So that's something we're very much looking forward to.
My particular pledge is to be working with a series of groups within the city of Brighton and Hove, and we're calling ourselves Brighton and Hove's Big Nature. What we want to do is to launch an event once a month to engage the public. It might be a citizen science project, might be a work with particular schools, to engage people to make them aware of the importance of biodiversity.